The Secret Race. The Shadowed Culture of Elite Cycling. By Hannah McFarland. First, an overview of Foucault's theories that will be utilised within this essay. Power. Foucault found that power is not centralised and therefore cannot be afforded to a particular person. Knowledge. Foucault stressed that knowledge and power cannot be seen as separate entities. They are conjoined products of the same social processes. Discourse. Foucault stated that discourse consists of statements which may be related to each other to form discursive formations. Discursive formations are sets of rules about what can be said and what can be viewed as acceptable behaviour in a particular social space. Surveillance. Foucault used the metaphor of the panopticon prison for the surveillance in society. He spoke of a central guard tower from which the prisoners may or may not have been watched. The awareness of potential unseen surveillance forces those subjects to discipline themselves. They become their own guard. Docility. Foucault found that the body is docile and can be subjected, used, transformed and altered into a more obedient and useful body. This is Tyler, our cyclist. He is reading the newspaper, which is telling him to take up cycling because it's good for his health. Tyler has had this message reinforced that health is important. This has become the dominant discourse in society. Tyler conforms, and with the knowledge that his health will improve, he takes up cycling. As Tyler is an avid user of social media, he is scrolling through Twitter and notices a tweet about doping. If that athlete has been banned for taking illegal drugs, then it must be the wrong thing to do. Tyler is conforming to the dominant discourse within society, that taking illegal drugs in sport is wrong. If a discourse community holds a given statement to be true, the acceptance of the statement gives it a certain power and standing within that social space. The knowledge that doping is wrong is strengthened by Lance Armstrong denying his use of illegal drugs, as such reinforcing the dominant discourse or rules of society. Armstrong is someone to be admired and trusted. Tyler decides that with his knowledge that he has accumulated, he is going to conform to the dominant discourse and say no to doping. He is going to be a clean cyclist. Tyler Hamilton has calculated that his journey from clean cyclist to a doper took just 1,000 days, or 3 years. Year 1, a hopeful young pup just excited to be in the peloton. Year 2, the realisation dawns. Year 3, the fork in the road appears. To dope or to quit. As Tyler enters the cycling world, he is influenced by those around him. Foucault talks of power being a certain concerted distribution of bodies and gazes. He starts to collect knowledge about what is accepted and expected of him, what are the rules of this particular discourse. He learns what a sports star should look like. He learns that to be seen as a true athlete, he must strive for perfection and therefore work hard. He also learns that the tour he dreams of cycling in calls for superhuman strength. So far, Tyler knows that there are certain rules to which he must abide to within the social setting of elite cycling. He knows that the dominant public discourse is that doping is wrong. He knows that the tour is very hard and requires perfection. And to achieve this perfection fairly, he must push his body to the limits. But it's fine, because everyone is in the same boat, doing the same thing, including Armstrong, and he's pretty good. Tyler had started to hear rumours circulating the peloton that some cyclists were using illegal substances to achieve this perfection. With this knowledge and trusting the dominant discourse that working hard pays off, Tyler worked even harder. He believed through knowledge he had accumulated that working hard pays off, and those that cheat are caught and punished, so riding clean would end up with him winning. But there was a problem. When the peloton emerged on tough climbs through the mountains, Tyler found himself at the back. But this couldn't be right. He'd followed all the rules of the social space. He'd worked hard. He hadn't doped. He should prevail. But he wasn't. A disparity between the dominant and public discourse and elite cycling's discourse was starting to become apparent. This change in the dominant discourse had been fueled by the peloton. Foucault described power as the uninterrupted, constant coercion, supervising the process of the activity according to a code that allows for meticulous control of the body. Riders who were doping were riding past him with little effort. The rules of this social space have to be different. According to Foucault's notion of surveillance, the subject will be induced into a state of permanent and conscious visibility, where each person acts as their own overseer, influenced by a normalizing gaze. In Tyler's case, he was giving everything he had, but he couldn't keep up. Self-surveying against the other athletes to whom it appeared easy, the discourse was different. Something was happening. The competition was just too tough riding clean. Tyler wasn't winning, and he needed to win. The knowledge he was receiving from the peloton was that of a rule change. You couldn't complete clean. Drugs had become the only way to win. It was becoming clear that cycling is doping. This knowledge, and thus the elite cycling discourse, would be reinforced by those in a position of power over Tyler. He had dreamed of competing in the Tour de France, but now the only way that this would be possible would become more professional. Becoming more professional meant one thing: doping. The decision to conform to the discourse and consider the consumption of illegal substances leads to the production of docile bodies. Foucault used the example of a soldier who became instantly recognisable from afar. As Tyler takes a decision to conform, he becomes an instantly recognisable cyclist from within the inner sanctum of the discourse. Tyler had reached his fork in the road: to dope or to quit. He had been through 1,000 days of being cheated, with no signs that anything would change. He had lived through 1,000 days of signals that doping was accepted and normal within this discourse. He also lived with the fear that if he didn't conform and ride faster, he would lose his job. Tyler was at the brink of success. The team doctor believed in him. He could win if he doped. The choice was simple. Either he joined the Brotherhood and conformed to the discourse, or he quit and went home.